In this episode, we're going to talk about using artificial intelligence, AI, in operations work in a way that is genuinely helpful and genuinely safe, because the easiest way to get burned is to treat AI like a magic answer machine. In Linux administration and security-adjacent work, the stakes can be high even for small tasks, since a wrong assumption can lead to downtime, data exposure, or a misleading incident timeline. At the same time, AI can be a powerful assistant for drafting, summarizing, brainstorming, and accelerating research when you keep humans in control of decisions and validation. The goal is not to be scared of AI or to adopt it blindly, but to build a disciplined relationship with it, similar to how you treat automation scripts: useful, repeatable, and constrained. We'll focus on safe use cases that fit ops reality, verification habits that prevent quiet failures, basic governance thinking so you do not create accidental compliance issues, and prompt habits that make results clearer and less error-prone. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A safe use case starts with understanding what AI is good at versus what it is not. AI is often excellent at language tasks, like turning rough notes into a clear runbook draft, rewriting an internal message to be more precise, or summarizing a long piece of text into key points. It can also be strong at pattern recognition in a general sense, like suggesting likely categories for an error message or proposing a checklist of areas to investigate. Where it is weaker is being a source of ground truth about your specific environment, because it cannot directly observe your systems, and it can make confident-sounding guesses when details are missing. For operations, that means you should treat AI outputs as candidate ideas, not authoritative facts. If the answer must be correct for safety, security, or availability, you should verify it using your own sources of truth, such as official documentation, system logs, or established internal procedures. This mindset turns AI into a brainstorming partner rather than a decision maker, which is the safest position for it in ops. One of the best ways to use AI safely is as a helper for communication and documentation. Ops work is full of writing that must be clear under stress. Incident updates, post-incident summaries, change descriptions, and handoff notes. AI can help you turn scattered details into a coherent narrative, propose a logical structure for a report, and improve clarity without changing the underlying facts. The key is that you provide the facts, and you verify the final wording reflects reality. If you are drafting an incident message, you can have AI suggest concise language, but you should confirm every claim matches what you know and avoid stating certainty where there is none. This is also where you must be careful with sensitive information, because incident reports may contain internal host names, user identifiers, or security details that should not be shared outside approved systems. A safe habit is to redact or generalize before you feed information into a tool, and to treat data minimization as a default, not a special extra step. Another strong use case is learning and concept clarification, especially for beginners preparing for Linux Plus. If you are trying to understand a topic like permissions, logging, or networking, AI can explain it in multiple ways, provide analogies, and help you connect concepts without requiring you to search through many sources. The safety concern here is that conceptual explanations can still contain errors or oversimplifications, so you should treat them as a starting point and cross-check the most important claims with more authoritative sources when you apply them. In ops, the difference between a good mental model and a wrong one can be subtle, and AI may not always know which details matter in your context. A helpful habit is to ask for the reasoning behind an answer, not because you want more words, but because the reasoning reveals assumptions. When you see assumptions, you can decide whether they match your environment or whether they need correction. This makes the tool more transparent and reduces the risk of silently adopting incorrect guidance. Verification is the core discipline that makes AI usable in ops without turning it into a risk multiplier. A simple verification mindset is to separate ideas from actions. AI can propose an idea quickly, but you are responsible for confirming it before you act. You can verify by checking official docs, comparing to known good runbooks, or validating against logs and configuration state. You can also sanity check with multiple independent sources rather than trusting a single explanation. Verification should scale with risk. Low-risk tasks like drafting an email need lighter verification, while high-risk tasks like security control changes need heavier verification. Another practical habit is to ask AI to list what information it would need to be certain, which can reveal what data you should go gather from your systems. Even if you do not provide that data to the tool, the question itself can sharpen your investigation. In this way, verification is not a separate chore. It is part of good ops thinking. Governance is the word that often sounds corporate, but in practice it just means having rules so you do not create accidental problems. In ops, governance questions include where data is allowed to go, what kinds of information are considered sensitive, and who is accountable for decisions made with tool assistance. If your environment has policies about customer data, credentials, incident artifacts, or regulated information, you need to treat AI tools like any other external service unless they are explicitly approved and controlled. The safest general rule is to never put secrets into prompts, never paste credentials, and never include private keys, tokens, or raw authentication material. You also want to avoid including full log dumps that contain user identifiers, internal addresses, or security event details unless you have a clear policy that allows it. Even if a tool claims to be secure, governance is about your organization's rules, not just the tool's features. A good ops culture treats these decisions as part of professional discipline, not paranoia. Prompt habits matter because the quality of AI output depends heavily on the clarity of the request. A common beginner mistake is to ask vague questions and then treat the answer as definitive. A better habit is to provide context, constraints, and the outcome you want, while explicitly stating what must not happen. In ops, constraints might include do not assume a specific distribution, do not suggest steps that require downtime, or keep recommendations high-level and non-destructive. Another helpful habit is to ask for trade-offs, like presenting 2 or 3 plausible approaches and explaining risks for each. That way, you are not forced into one path, and you can choose based on your environment. You can also ask for a checklist format in your own head without requesting a literal list in the output, focusing instead on making sure you cover categories like permissions, networking, service status, and logs. The key idea is that prompts should reduce ambiguity, because ambiguity is where wrong assumptions grow. It is also wise to build a personal pattern for using AI during troubleshooting without letting it take over the process. In ops, good troubleshooting often follows a sequence: establish symptoms, define what changed, isolate the scope, and then test hypotheses. AI can help you generate hypotheses, but it should not replace the evidence-gathering steps. One safe approach is to treat AI as a hypothesis generator and phrasing assistant, then use your systems to confirm or reject each hypothesis. If you ask AI about an error message, the safest request is not what command should I run, but what are common categories of causes and what evidence would distinguish them. That keeps the tool's role conceptual and investigative rather than operationally prescriptive. This reduces the chance you perform a risky action based on a confident-sounding guess. It also reinforces good habits for Linux Plus, because the exam is often about reasoning and isolation, not about memorizing one perfect fix. Another best practice is to treat AI outputs as drafts that you refine, rather than finished products you paste into production. This applies to scripts, documentation, and even configuration snippets. AI can produce plausible-looking text that contains subtle mistakes, outdated assumptions, or security weaknesses, so the responsible approach is to review carefully and adjust. For scripts, this means you check logic, handle error cases, and ensure you are not accidentally introducing unsafe defaults. For documentation, this means you verify that steps match your actual environment and that your wording does not promise certainty where there is none. For security-sensitive topics, it means you are cautious about recommendations that bypass controls or weaken protections, even if they seem convenient. The deeper habit is to slow down at the moment where AI output becomes action, because that is where the risk concentrates. In ops, speed matters, but unverified speed can be more damaging than being slightly slower and correct. Finally, there is a human and organizational side that matters. Accountability should always remain with people. AI can assist, but it cannot own the outcome. and that is not just a philosophical point. In a post-incident review, it is not acceptable to say the tool told me to do it. You need to be able to explain why the action made sense and what evidence supported it. This is why governance and verification are inseparable. Governance sets the boundaries for what you will use the tool for, and verification ensures that within those boundaries, the result is correct enough to act on. When your team adopts consistent prompt habits and consistent verification steps, AI becomes a force multiplier rather than a source of random risk. It also becomes easier to onboard new admins, because you can teach them not only what to ask, but how to think about the answer. To close, the safest way to use AI in operations is to treat it like a junior assistant that is fast with language and ideas, but not privileged with authority. Safe use cases include drafting communications, summarizing known text, creating structured documentation from your facts, and helping you learn concepts or generate hypotheses. Verification is the discipline that turns suggestions into trustworthy decisions, and it should scale with the risk of the action. Governance keeps you from leaking sensitive data or violating policy, and a strict no-secrets approach should be non-negotiable. Prompt habits reduce ambiguity by providing context and constraints, and they help you get outputs that are easier to validate and less likely to hide assumptions. When you combine these practices, you get the real value of AI in ops: faster thinking, clearer writing, and better organization, without giving up the core responsibility that makes operations safe.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.